Hello, Ed.
We are here on the Expert Sleepers booth, Superbooth 18.
Yeah.
Third year running.
Absolutely.
And you've got a new FH-2, right?
The FH-2, yes. The FH-2, codenamed Factotum, is a replacement for the FH-1. It's basically 3 years of customer feedback on the FH-1 rolled up into a new module aiming to be everything that everybody ever wanted it to be. So at heart it's a MIDI to CV converter, but an incredibly flexible and configurable one. And it's also kind of adopting the role of a kind of clocking integration station. So this is my attempt to kind of make a snappy graphic to illustrate all the ways it could possibly be used in one helpful diagram. So basically, in terms of the practicalities, it's an 8 HP module with a screen and a knob and a button. It's got a USB host port, so you can use that to plug in directly a MIDI keyboard or a controller like this one, or something here with like lots of faders on it, or a USB hub and a number of these things at once, in fact, or your Electron Digitact or Pyramid or whatever, straight into there to convert MIDIs to clocks, or play notes, or control the outputs directly from faders, or anything like that.
So can it generate a MIDI clock as well? Like, so
yeah.
If you've just got like a keyboard MIDI controller that doesn't actually output any clock, it can just...
Absolutely. So it can take a MIDI clock from any of its MIDI destinations and sources. It can generate its own internal clock, and it can also take an analog clock pulse from the modular and turn that into a clock for itself and for the MIDI connected gear. So basically,
output back to the MIDI gear.
It can output MIDI clock back to the MIDI gear from the modular if it needs to. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So just by way of a little demo here, I guess the FH-1 you could configure in this slightly elaborate way. The configuration for this thing, you can do it all on the screen, and then you can go into your configurations and load the configuration you want. So this one's called MPE4.
So how many configurations can it hold on the module?
I think it's 32 at the last count. But the easier way to configure it, and this kind of brings me on to this second socket, as well as the USB host port, it's got a USB device port. So you can take a cable and plug it directly into a laptop or an iPad, and then you can send it MIDI from your DAW. So live preferences here. Sorry, get rid of that. The FH-2 is just there as your MIDI source or destination, but beyond that I've got this kind of web-based configurator which communicates directly to the module with SysX. So you can do all your configuration on the computer and a nice big screen, send it down to the module, then ignore the computer entirely and just take it out and play. So anyway, so I've just loaded this configuration here, which is doing MPE conversion from this Rolly Seaboard block. I've got, in this particular case, I've got my pitch, and I've got pressure directly mapped to a VCA on a couple of channels, and I've got the Y dimension controlling a wavetable VCO. And just since I've got you here, the wavetable VCO is the Disting Mark IV, of course, which is not exactly news, but just to remind everybody that it exists. And I've got that going through a disting reverb and a disting ping pong delay as well.
So it's basically all disting sounds?
It's all distings. But yeah, so you can play these lovely expressive kind of two-part. And that's just using kind of two presses from the maximum 16 or whatever it is you can get through MPE. So that's super helpful. And then if you want to go to your configurator and that is what it's currently doing, and if you decide actually you wish that one of your outputs was a clock, you just find the output you want and you go, I want a clock now, I want it to be an 8th note, and you send that back to the FH-2, and now if I start my clock running, then I've got a clock pulse coming out of that output that I just configured.
So it's four input,
eight outputs. It's got 2 inputs, which at the moment are for clocks, and I also have this expansion module, the FHX one. You can connect 7 of those for a total of 64 CV outputs. And I realised on the plane over that what I actually need to do, as well as that, is a dedicated gate clock output expander. And I think I can probably squeeze 192 clock outputs from that.
Okay,
that.
That should be enough, I think.
Yeah, that would do you. So that's my plan, to make this kind of the big clocking control center of a MIDI-based system, be that from a computer door or from a standalone groove box or from a keyboard controller or knobby fadery thing.
In terms of like stability, because obviously all the kind of old, the older expert sleeper stuff was audio. It wasn't MIDI, right? It was audio, so it was much tighter. Are you able to get this just as tight as that stuff?
It's not going to be. The thing with audio is that the delivery of audio from the computer is this very carefully engineered system that guarantees that all your audio arrives in a sample accurate way, because if it didn't, your audio would sound like total mush. Whereas the MIDI system in a computer, at least, is this fundamentally, the USB system is designed for mice and keyboards, right? So you don't have that guaranteed delivery if you're talking about using it with a computer. If you're talking about embedded hardware, like the device itself or one of these other dedicated bits of MIDI gear, you can have much tighter control of the MIDI timing. You still don't have that kind of guaranteed scheduled delivery you get from audio, but there's no reason it should be as bad as it would be from a Windows 7 laptop, for example. So I'm kind of fudging around the question there because
I think I dropped you in it with that question. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I understand that I have these two kind of parallel product lines now. If you're sequencing from a computer, I would still say doing it through the audio connection is how you're going to get the best resolution and the best timing. If you don't have a computer, or you simply enjoy the convenience of MIDI, then it's a very performant solution still.
And could you say, for instance, take your clock into one of the audio expert sleepers devices and then take that out into the FH-2 to then clock it at sample accurate MIDI?
You could certainly do that,
then clock say something like a Digitact or something like that.
You could do that. If you were going to do that, I have other solutions that directly generate the MIDI from the audio stream without doing that kind of hop through a USB converter, and that would probably perform better because then I can actually guarantee that the MIDI itself is sample accurate using, say, the USAMO or the ESX8MD. I can guarantee I'm delivering sample accurate MIDI. So yeah, there's a frightening number of combinations that are now possible.
There's so many different ways that you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this seems like a really neat solution, especially if you're working with
without a computer
and with controllers that you maybe have lying around and stuff that you can
especially if you combine a few of them with a hub, or you just want to plug in a groove box and play. I mean, it's not plugged in just now. I can plug it in if just for the sake of seeing it actually happen. That's my Digitact cable, I think.
Yeah, I've got one of them.
So yeah, there we go. So if I press play on my Digitact now, my little clock output's suddenly going to burst into life. Press stop on the Digitact and it's going to stop with A-lock. Yeah, there we go. Or equally, if I press play on here, then my Digitact is now playing from the clock that this is generating. And if I take a pulse from somewhere else and plug it into there, it's going to start generating a clock which is going to start triggering the Digitact. So all of these different clocking options are possible.
Excellent. And is it kind of ready to go, or you've got
it's in the factory right now, so I'm expecting to have final hardware in a few weeks. The software is nearly final but not quite, so I'm saying June. I think June's a realistic estimate of when that'll be ready.
Excellent. Well, Oz, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming.